Hi, so my name is Grace Ojibo. I am the founder and project coordinator of Gemstone Sickle Cell Foundation, a foundation that caters for persons living with sickle cell disease, raising awareness in our communities in rural areas about genotype testing and compatibility issues so that our people can make informed decisions. To mark World Sickle Cell Day on June 19th, we are putting out this video to tell us about war against sickle cell disease, the role of individual, society, and government. So I'll be introducing our speaker with this bio, and please enjoy the show.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Lola Opeyemi, and before I begin, I'd like to apologize for the break in transmission last night. Okay, so today we'll be talking about war against sickle cell, our role as individuals, in society, and government. You can't fight what you don't know, right? So I'll just briefly tell us what sickle cell is. Sickle cell disease is a genetic disorder that affects the red blood cells, causing them to form a sickle shape. And when these red blood cells become sickled, it is difficult for it to pass through the veins, and then they break down, causing anemia, leading to pain crisis. They can obstruct blood vessels and lead to other complications. So how does this sickle cell come about? It happens when two persons who we call carriers come together and mate or marry each other and then have children with sickle cell. Carriers are persons who have the sickle cell traits or the sickle cell gene. They are not they do not have the sickle cell disease, but they carry the gene. These are people with AS or AC. So for the purpose of this discussion, I'll just focus on the AS. So when two persons with AS genotype come together, they can have a child with sickle cell. They have a 25% chance of having a child with sickle cell for each pregnancy. I'll emphasize on that later. So we all know the saying that prevention is better than cure. And the easiest and the cheapest way to combat the sickle cell disease is to prevent it. And how do you prevent it? It's simple. If you know you're a carrier, or you know someone who's a carrier, then you know that you're not supposed to actually marry another person who is also a carrier. So that brings me to my first point. Know your genotype. It's very important. So many persons go about these days, like it's surprising that so many persons don't know their genotype in 2021. You should know your genotype. The test is not so expensive. Just go to any good and trusted laboratory and check your genotype. And please, don't just check it once. Try and check it again, like at least 3 times in 3 different places to confirm your genotype. So when you know your genotype, then you should also know your compatibility. You should know if, for example, if your genotype is AA, you know then that okay, you can actually marry anybody, you can have children, you can marry AS, you can marry AC, you can marry SS, and so on. But then if you know your genotype and you find out that you're a carrier, which means your genotype is AS, then you be careful of who you get married to. We advise that you look out for someone who is AA, because if you're AS and you marry another person who is AS, the likelihood of you getting a child with sickle cell disease is very high. So when you know your genotype, before you get into a relationship, it's normal and it's a wise thing to actually find out the genotype of your partner. Some persons will say, oh, I'm AS, but all the people I meet, they are also AS, and if I keep telling them I'm AS and they're also AS, they will run away from me. Which one will you prefer? Will you prefer that you come out straight in the beginning and the relationship does not work, or you finally get married to another AS person and then you have a child with sickle cell? Trust me, the latter is worse. Okay, it's better for you to just come up straight in the beginning and know the genotype of your partner. Okay, so you should also try to know the genotype of your friends, your siblings, members of your family. Just spread this awareness. Let everybody know their genotype. So I'll be moving on to the next point, which is to show love and empathy to people living with sickle cell disease. Nobody chooses to have sickle cell disease. These children, these persons, they are born with it. Like I said earlier, it's a genetic disorder. So we need to show them love, we need to show them empathy, we need to support them in whatever way we can. If you know someone with sickle cell disease, you should be kind to them, you should help them, because trust me, it's difficult living with sickle cell disease. Okay, so another thing you can actually do is to donate blood. If you are eligible, you're healthy, you need to donate blood, because persons with sickle cell disease, most of them, they will need blood transfusion from time to time. So donating blood, you are actually saving a life, and you're not just saving a life, because donating blood is actually a healthy thing to do. When you donate blood, your bone marrow cells are stimulated. Your bone marrow is stimulated to produce new cells, and that is actually a very healthy thing for you. You can donate blood from 2 to 3 or 4 times in a year, and trust me, you would have done a great deal. You would have saved one life. Even if you don't know the person, you would have saved a life, and I think that's a very good thing to do. So showing love to persons with sickle cell, if you know anyone around you, you can help them. Maybe if they are tired, you can support them. You can even maybe help them get their drugs. Just show that you care, and don't be one of those who make life difficult for them. So if you're also living with sickle cell disease, I'm sure you already know, or you most likely know what to do and what not to do, how to manage yourself. You know that you should take your routine drugs regularly. You should also visit your doctor regularly, and then you should avoid physical and emotional stress. Physical stress, like doing strenuous exercises and other things that can cause you to get tired, you should avoid that. Emotional stress, don't think too much, don't allow anything or anyone make you sad and all that. You should also avoid extremes of weather, whether very hot weather or very cold weather. These are triggers of the sickle cell pain crisis. You should cover yourself very well in cold weather. Don't expose your body. And then you should also avoid infections. The commonest infection in this region in Africa is malaria. So you should also cover your body, use a mosquito net, avoid or prevent mosquito bites, and also take care of yourself, have good personal hygiene, so that you don't fall ill or get other infections. There are other infections that can trigger crisis, like upper respiratory tract infections, pneumonia, and all that. And another very important thing that we sing every time is that you should drink water. Drink enough water. Coke or Fanta is not water. Drink water regularly, at least 3 liters a day. 3 liters might not even be enough for you, depending on the age. But make sure you get enough water every day. You should also eat well, eat properly. Don't just take junks and all that. Eat balanced diet. Make sure there's fruits and vegetable in your diet. This would help boost your immune system and help fight against infections, and also help you produce healthy red blood cells. Okay, so what can we do as a society to help battle this sickle cell? The first thing I'm going to point out is that we should stop the stigmatization. It's really heartbreaking when I see posts on social media, trolling people with sickle cell disease, or even carriers saying all sorts of things. Sometimes I think that these persons might not even have been affected by the disease. They don't know anybody, or they don't know how it feels to actually have sickle cell. So you just come and say anything you like in the name of being woke. Please, let's stop that, okay? And even physically, don't start insulting people. Some persons make jokes like, maybe if somebody is always falling sick, they'll be like, you be sickler. No, it's not funny. First of all, that word sickler is derogatory. Second, it's not a joke to just call anybody that falls ill frequently sickler. Sickle cell disease is not a joke. It's a real disease, like affecting real people, real families, real communities. So please, let's stop the stigmatization. Like I said before, no one chooses to have this disease. These children, they do not come to the world and say, oh, I want to have sickle cell, or they do not bring it by themselves. It was unfortunate that their parents probably did not know, and they came together and they have sickle cell disease. And you don't want to know the amount of pain and trauma, both physically and emotionally, that these persons go through. So adding stigmatization to that, trolling them, saying all sorts of mean and derogatory things about the disease is not nice. So please, let us stop that. Instead, let us show love and empathy to these persons. Let's be kind to them, because the truth is, most persons living with sickle cell also suffer from mental health issues, like especially depression. So please, let's not make life worse or more difficult for them. Let's show support, let's show love to them. And let's also increase awareness about the disease. It's surprising that even in this social media age and time, the number of babies born with sickle cell is still getting on the increase, is increasing daily, and you're wondering what is happening. So another way to show support is actually to increase sickle cell awareness on your social media pages, among your friends, among your families. Let people know what this disease is about, and please don't start spreading lies or tales or jokes. It's a serious thing. So let's make people know that, okay, sickle cell disease is real, first of all, and then how to prevent it, which is to know your genotype and to know your compatibility. So that's another way that we can actually show support, by spreading and increasing awareness about sickle cell disease. The society can also help by forming non-governmental organizations and sickle cell support groups. Like, there are so many. I'm grateful that there are so many NGOs targeted at sickle cell disease. Some raise donors for persons living with sickle cell, some give out free drugs, give food and all that. I'm so grateful for all the NGOs around, but I think that we can actually do better. There can be collaboration between different NGOs, and if you're a well-meaning individual, you're well-to-do, you can also show support by giving to these NGOs, because NGOs, of course, they are not profit organizations, they are non-profit organizations rather, so they actually need donations and support. So we can also give to these organizations that help people living with sickle cell disease. You can also go there, donate blood. Some also offer free genotype tests. Like, they are doing wonderfully well. So I'm grateful for that, and I believe that more can still be done. Okay, so I'll be moving to governmental role in curbing sickle cell disease. It's quite sad and unfortunate to know that the government has not really been trying in this aspect. Sickle cell disease is a disease of public health importance, which means that it's actually a disease that affects a lot of persons worldwide and has been recognized by the World Health Organization. So it's actually supposed to be one of the diseases that are actually it's actually supposed to be one of the diseases that is on the forefront, or on the front burner in the health sector, that the government is supposed to work and fight against. But unfortunately, this has not been the case. Sickle cell affects about 3% of Nigerians. That's 3% of the population. I think it should even be more than that, but that's the latest data we have. And about 150 million babies are born with sickle cell disease every day in Nigeria. Sorry, I mean every year. 150 million babies are born with sickle cell every year in Nigeria. So you see, it's actually a very serious thing, and the government of this day needs to wake up to that. One thing that I will advocate for, is the simplest and cheapest thing that we can actually do as a government, is that genotype testing should be made free. If genotype testing is made free, then at least so many persons will be able to access this, and they will get to know their genotypes and also know what to do when it comes to compatibility and when it comes to getting married. So if there's free genotype testing, this would go a long way to actually reduce the incidence of giving birth to children with sickle cell. If there is free HIV testing, then I believe that free genotype testing is possible and it should be done. Aside the free genotype testing, there should also be free screening of newborn babies for sickle cell disease. If there's free screening, that's when these babies are born, they are screened, and those with sickle cell are noted. It will also go a long way to help curb the menace of this disease, because early diagnosis is actually one of the things that will help to improve the outcome of the disease. If these babies are diagnosed from their neonatal age, that's when they are still very young, within the first days of life, then from there they can start being managed, and it will actually improve the outcome. It will help them to live better lives. Another thing the government can do is to establish sickle cell centers in more parts of the country. I think I've seen only one, that was in Edo State. So if there are more sickle cell centers, these centers are designated to take care of persons living with sickle cell disease. There will be doctors on ground, nurses, just specifically for sickle cell. So these persons living with sickle cell disease can go there, get drugs and get treatments quickly. It will go a long way to actually make life better for these persons. So I think the government can actually do that. They should provide more sickle cell centers and more focused on taking care of people living with sickle cell disease. Then subsidization of health care for people living with sickle cell. Sickle cell disease is a very financially straining or financially consuming disease. I'm sorry to say that, but it actually costs a lot to manage the disease. Buying routine drugs, some persons take different kinds of drugs, and these drugs might not be cheap, like hydroxyurea and other supplements. Some persons cannot even afford to take these drugs. They cannot afford to buy these drugs. So subsidizing the cost of these drugs, if possible, making it free, it's possible. Also subsidizing medical treatments. People living with sickle cell disorder, they have to visit the hospital from time to time for pain, crisis, and other infections, other complications of the disease. And trust me, they spend a lot. Healthcare is expensive in Nigeria, so it will be really good if the cost of these drugs and healthcare can be subsidized for people living with sickle cell disease, or if they can be given free insurance like NHIS also. It will be really good for them, to reduce the cost, the burden of this, especially on the families. Some families have been brought down to poverty. Imagine having 2 or 3 children living with sickle cell. It can be really difficult, paying for their hospital bills, getting the drugs and everything. Trust me, it's tough. So the government can actually help in that aspect. The government also has a role in increasing awareness about sickle cell. In fact, they play a major role, or they should play a major role in increasing awareness about this disease, because it's something that is here with us. Even though sickle cell affects persons all over the world, it's more common in blacks and Africans. So actually, it's something that we should all rise up to and increase awareness about the disease. They can have advertisements on national TV concerning sickle cell, like on a day like this, that is World Sickle Cell Day. The government should organize programs or activities or something, and also advertisements, about sickle cell, know your genotype, something just short, so that it keeps ringing in the ears of people. Another thing, they can also maybe add it to school curriculum, primary school, secondary school. It's better to actually start from these grassroots, from the young ones. If they know already from that age that okay, there's something called sickle cell disease, I'm supposed to know my genotype, or they even know their genotype at that age, it will instill that consciousness in them that okay, if I'm AA, I can marry anybody. If I'm AS, I should not marry another AS. The government can also rehabilitate people living with sickle cell disease. Sickle cell disease is actually a disability, even though it might not be a physical disability, or people living with sickle cell disease might not be physically disabled, although the disease actually could cause physical disability, but it is a disability, and people living with sickle cell disease might actually need rehabilitation. What do I mean by rehabilitation? Provide work for them to do, provide funds for support. Some of these persons, they can't even fend for themselves. Some have been rejected by family, some have been abandoned, especially the little children. You can provide sickle cell homes, or centers where they can stay, and be taken care of. For the adults, you can provide jobs that will not require so much physical stress, empowerment, teach them something to do to fend for themselves. Sickle cell disease actually requires a lot of support. So I believe if the government can look into this, it will also go a long way in helping. Laws can also be set up. Laws against stigmatization can also be set up. If persons know that if I stigmatize somebody living with sickle cell disease, I can actually get into trouble with the law. It will also help. Some persons might actually be deliberately wicked into persons living with sickle cell disease. In some communities, they might actually tag these children as having evil spirits, as being possessed, or being witches, and maltreat them. There should be laws to stop that. There should be laws against that. So I believe that the government can set up laws, can set up policies against stigmatization of people living with sickle cell disease. It also go a long way. So in summary, I believe that everyone should come together to fight against sickle cell. The individuals, the society, and the government should come together as one to stop this menace called sickle cell disease. Let's create awareness, talk about the disease. Let's show love and empathy to people living with sickle cell disease, and let's stop the stigmatization, stop the discrimination. Okay, thank you very much.